Hello everyone, and welcome back to Talking Points with KPI, episode number 58. As you can see, we are back in the facility. We had a great time down in Nashville. ABCA is over. We are back to normal days at the facility, training high school kids as we do. But today's topic of the day is going to be training during the high school season. So training is essential during the high school season. It only takes 1 to 2 days per week to maintain the progress that's made over the winter. And a lot of people don't think that. They think it's more days than that. So to just talk about how, and you can either start from the perspective of how the winter should be or where you should be at during high school training.
Yeah, I think, Dan will talk about like the actual physiological aspects of just being able to maintain strength and movement quality during the season just by going 1 or 2 times. But like what I always tell kids is like, you bust your ass and you train all fall, all winter, and then you take off a third of the year, and then you come back in the summer and you're like, hey, let's go again. Like there's nothing in the real world where you can just take off a third of the time and expect to be successful. So our message for them, and it's been trial and error for us these first few years, but basically we want them in here as much as possible. So we're giving them unlimited workouts and full day Sundays, open gym set. Like anytime they can get in here, we're going to be open for them, so they can kind of get their work in. And they're so well trained and they're so locked into the routine here that it's. They don't need our oversight all the time, even though we are going to have structured sessions Sundays and Mondays. But, I think the main theme for us to them is get in here and keep it going.
Yeah. Okay. And so then to the point, Dan, right? A lot of people, and they take that third of the year off because they say, well, I'm playing games. That could satisfy my needs enough till I get to summer, and then I'll start training again. Talk about the importance of, and we've talked about it on previous podcasts before, obviously, but how important development is during that high school time.
Contextual, right? Depending on the athlete, yes, you need to play games, right? You have to put and see if that work in the off season actually shows up on the field. So we have to play games as a part of the equation, but it can't be zero development, 100% playing for 4 months. That equation isn't going to work, even for the most talented athlete. You have to continue to invest in the things that have helped you get to that point. Yeah. And the two metrics that I think of, Erik's talking about the physiological changes. Number one, you're going to lose weight. And if you go into your season at the max weight you've ever weighed your entire life, your body's not used to that. And so it's going to want to go back to what's comfortable. And so, hey, I put 10 pounds on this off season. Well, you can very quickly lose that weight over a 4-month span. And we saw that. Our force plate data shows a consistent trend with the athletes who take a break and stop training. Because if you think your kid works out during their season at home in that home gym, we know they don't because they lose weight. You can see that. We can pull up our force plate data and show, hey, like we know which kids trained in season and we know which ones did not because their body weight stayed the same as the being released. If not, some kids made gains in season. And I'd say from a body weight standpoint, if you were a junior or younger, like if you don't weigh 180 to 190 pounds, you're not in a position to compete for a varsity spot. You're not in a position to potentially play college baseball one day. And so if you put on 10 pounds and you lose 15, and you put on 10 pounds and you lose 15, we do that for 2 years straight. You've now gained 10 pounds in 2 years versus doing that in the one off season that you do it. So I think that body weight is huge. I tell almost every kid, shoot higher, about 5 to 10 pounds more than you think you need to going into the season because you're going to lose 5 to 10. And then the other is the kids who did not lift, their force development, one of the first metrics we look at, their power goes down. Yeah. And so if you go into your high school season, really into your preseason, and you're starting to lose all these training benefits through the tryout phase, through the preseason phase, through the regular season phase, and you go into playoffs at the weakest and the lightest that you've been over the entire year, you're not going to help your team win. You're not going to be in a position to contribute, and your performance is going to start to suffer. And then summer baseball is right around the corner. So it's one of those things that doesn't take a lot. It's the reason why Sundays is the day. You can maintain your strength. You can maintain your the gains that you've made with one lift per week. Yeah, and it's scientifically proven. I'm happy to share that research with Erik Cressy talks about it all the time. If you want to maintain strength and power, you can hit it once a week. You don't need to hit it like crazy to be able to pick up where you left off. The one thing you do need to, movement quality, tissue quality, all of those things, you have to stay on top of that daily and weekly. And unfortunately, the athletes that we train with, we've conditioned them to only do stuff when coaches are watching.
Yeah.
When I'm at the facility, I'll do my arm care, I'll do my stretching, I'll do my hitting drills, but we've trained them that they won't do that outside of. There are exceptions. Our best athletes in this building do what we tell them to do 24/7, 365. But the average high schooler, if they're at home, you're going to force them to do homework. And they're going to go do video games and TikTok and Snapchat after that. Them doing their arm care, the average kid isn't going to do it. So getting them into a space where you have a staff that's focused on making sure they're doing those things is crucial.
I'm going to bring up a point from the transition from high school to summer that you talked about to Eric, but first I want to bring up Chase. So to the skill side, we have real life examples of kids who on both sides of the spectrum kind of hop out for the spring and then come back in the summer, and it's we've seen with our own eyes the drastic changes that happen so quickly.
Sure.
With the fact of I'm self-training. I've been doing the same thing for so long, but bad habits only create bad solutions. So how have you seen, and then to talk to the example of the kids in this facility that have dedicated the spring to development as well as playing games, how have you seen that kind of skill set be able to tell a difference when it comes to sessions?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's split, right? On the subjective side, it's like the hardest part of the game is being able to handle it, right? And so, what we get to do with what we have with the kids that train with us all year long and then go into the spring side is that we know your tendencies. We know where you go right and go wrong. Like, we know how to challenge you. We know all these things that we've developed for this long that now matter in season. And it's important to keep that going, right? Because, and it's just when you get in the trenches, the hardest thing to do is to be able to actually think clearly and remember those things, right? And that's what we're here for. That's the whole reason why we set this up for the Sundays and all these things like that, is to be able to actually like tailor their development in season, just like we tailor their development for the rest of the year. It's not a crazy complicated solution. It's like, we've been doing this the whole time. Now it matters. We have to keep going,
And on that point, on the skill side for hitters, like the perceptual training we do here with the velo and the sliders and the machines and like that, the way we train hitters, that's almost for sure going to be a much different experience they have in the high school season, where it's going to probably predominantly be easy BP, and then game reps. So we can really augment and enhance what they're already doing at their high schools by coming in that 1 day a week and getting that brain training, that perceptual training, with the challenging environment we set up. So it's like the best of both worlds they can get.
The perfect lead up to my next question, and I want to talk about the fact we've seen it you've seen it as a struggle in examples of kids that I won't put names, but the high school coach, right? And we've talked about it, and I don't want the answer to be, we'll just get rid of the ego, because we've had podcasts on that forever. And if you're listening to this and you think we're wrong, please get rid of your ego. But that challenge that kids have facing high school coaches in the spring, not letting them either get the development they need or don't think it's a good idea. How do you, cut the ego is the easy way, but how do you navigate these coaches to let them know that, like, hey, you're just ruining this kid for no reason?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have internal feelings on that, and we've all kind of bitten our tongue for a while. I've been slowly not biting my tongue on this subject because I'm pretty passionate about it. And like, here's the thing that I'm passionate about, is that high school baseball is really valuable to these guys. To the high level player, to the low level player, JV, freshman, like all of it, like high school baseball is a very unique and important experience for them. But what we're seeing more and more, and we're seeing a shift, is that like players are taking the power. And they are saying, like, no, I'm going to do this thing. This is good for my development. You can't tell me what to do. Especially the better players, where they know that, pretty much the coach is stuck and has to listen to them. So, I think our hope is that we stop seeing that. We stop seeing that line drawn. So I'm like, no, you can't go see that person. You can't go do those things. We haven't had that a ton lately. Definitely in the early days, we had quite a bit of it. So I think, one, we're getting authority and trust in the area that, like, hey, those things are fine. And then two, most importantly, players are taking control and the power in their process, and they're doing what's best for themselves. Because if the better players are healthy and they're playing well, that's really good for the team. So I think it's working. It's just it's a slow process for sure.
I think to speak to that, like, kids are going to outside voices anyways.
Yep.
So
if you think they're not, you're insane.
You're
insane,
right? Like, there's just no way. So, like, we've had an open door policy. We have communication systems where I'm literally been tasked with bolstering our communication systems with our high school coaches. Like, if you're a coach that really does want to help your players get better and ensure what they've been doing up to this point, and then is continuity there so that throughout their high school season they're continuing to get better year after year, and wanting your program to grow. You can try and find every single private instructor and talk to them and say, hey, what are you're gonna have? You got 50 guys and you could have 25 instructors that you got to go find, or you can communicate with one entity and have a cohesive approach to helping the players get better. And again, we have no problem saying, hey, you're the high school coach, you're in control. We're not going to tell you how to use your players or how to write the lineup or any of those things. We want to give you better information so that you can make a more educated decision on the athletes that you're dealing with the athlete being at the center of making those good decisions.
And on that point, what we've done in the past, and it becomes more and more challenging as we have more and more athletes, but we still plan on doing it, and Dan's working on it right now, is we send every local high school coach a report on their guys. So here's how many pitches they've thrown with us, here's what shape they're in, here's what they've been working on, here's any injuries that popped up, or a soreness that's popped up. So we really try to be a conduit to hey, the training world to the field world, and then we do back off in the spring and we go watch their games, and we just we coach them when they pop their head in, but that's their time of the year to be with their high schools.
And so to the point of, we want our spring development program, we want it to allow athletes to be able to maintain their strength, movement gains, and also at the same time prioritize their health. So Dan, right, the stigma behind in-season training a lot of the times is when kids go by themselves and just do massive amounts of bench, massive amounts of squats during game times, and the kids sore, not playing well. Talk about how in-house and even to our hybrid players on our spring development systems, how they're able to get kind of the best of both worlds when it comes to health and training at the same time.
I'd say the kid that you're talking about is rare.
Yeah.
Like majority. So the kid who's doing too much, and there are those kids. Hey,
Take those kids all day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would love those kids, but it is a conversation that has to be had where, hey, right now, you putting in more gains in the weight room. If you're a junior and younger and you're not starting on varsity, you can leverage that. If you're a freshman and you're like, oh, I'm going to be sore from my game and I don't want to work out, it's like freshman baseball is, for the most part, everybody plays. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. But again, the athlete who's killing it and crushing it, having the conversation, hey dude, you need to focus on actually being good in games and going and crushing deadlifts, and then you can't touch your toes and your swing looks terrible, and all the stuff that we see. 100%. But I think the more common athlete is I have a game tomorrow. I don't want to be sore. Yeah. I want to feel good for my game tomorrow. And there are ways to work out where you're not sore. There are ways to adjust your lifts, adjust the stress on your body so that you are feeling fresh and prepared. And in all reality, you not feeling sore, the workout isn't the biggest thing. Going to bed at 2, 3, 4 in the morning and playing video games, your nutrition being terrible, crushing energy drinks and pre-workout, all of that stuff. Even one of the ones that's really taboo is alcohol consumption, nicotine consumption, vapes, all that stuff. If you think the one workout a week is making you sore and not recover well, your sleep is terrible, you consume alcohol, you consume nicotine, you smoke, you're kidding yourself. Yeah. That's what's ruining your performance and ruining your ability to perform. So having a space where you can come in and talk to a professional and have a plan in place and have somebody hold you accountable to that plan once a week during the spring, that's why we've set the system that way.
And my response to the kid that says, I don't want to be sore because I'm working out, is what do you think the guys in the big leagues do? You think they play every day? You think they don't work out during the week? They get there at noon, they work out, and they have a 7 o'clock game. They somehow figure out how to perform at a high level. Same thing with the college guys. They're playing 5 games a week. They're on the road. Do you think they're not lifting? Yeah. Of course they are. So your body is 100% prepared if you train the right way to do these lifts during season, and it helps you. And I know it's on our script, but our high-level guys last year, all the MVPs, all the pitchers of the year, they trained full-time during the spring last year, and they lifted 3-4 times a week.
And so, obviously, that is a part. We have a lot of high-level athletes that do train during the season. And that's kind of what this podcast is based around, to get everybody in the encompassing area to make sure that they're training the right way with development during the springtime. So, Chase, now to the skill point of things. So, the pitching and hitting system train hitters in a much different way during the spring. We kind of have ideologies during each season, I guess you could say, on what you would want to attack without giving the secret sauce away. Right? We've been doing a very good job of keeping that. How is your mindset going into the spring to be able to develop and train hitters to be ready for season?
Well, I mean, I think it's to Eric's point earlier, right? A lot of it can be based around like the perception piece, like I need you to see velocity, like I need you to see off-speed pitches. I need you to be challenged with pitches that you are going to see, and we get that information too as they come in. So not only are we gonna like obviously try to push your performance on the Sundays, right, as to the best of our ability, but we're also gonna get information on what you're seeing and being able to tailor that to you, which is another piece to the individualization that'll allow you to perform in season, and that's what we want. That's the goal, right? And so it's a constant shifting structure of how can we challenge these guys and what can we give them that is going to help them for the week. And sometimes it's like, hey, we got a big week against some dude that's about to throw 94 in our face. Like, we need to see that. And it's like, okay, let's go. Let's talk about it. Let's do it. Like, those kind of things.
And so really what's at stake for these kids is, it's like we talked about it earlier in the podcast, it's starting positions, recruiting, and to your point, overall health in general. What would be, in an open question, like just one piece of advice going into, and this could be for a parent of a high school athlete, or a high school coach, on how important it is to prioritize development during the spring?
What you have done to date to get you to where you're at shouldn't just stop. A very easy, like, micro example of this. Oh, I hurt my arm. I go to a physical therapist. I get PT exercises, and I do them because my arm hurts. And now my arm stops hurting, so I stop doing my PT exercises.
Go back to the same thing.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm going to just stop doing it. And I can say this from experience because I did it every single time when I was a high schooler. It's like, oh, I don't need this remedy anymore because I'm good now. And then what do you know? You get hurt again. So, like, the consistency, I think, is key. And then I think that on the flip side is, like, be an advocate for yourself. There, you have more power as a player than you think. Sure. You're not at the mercy of one person who's determining your what you can and can't do. Like, advocate for yourself. Hey, this is, you got to do it the right way, right?
True.
But
be respectful.
This is what has helped me. This is how I've gotten better. I'm open to talking about it, but it's you have to present evidence as to why I'm going to switch my routine completely. I can't just abandon my approach or my swing or my arm care or my throwing drills. Like, I know this is what's helped me get to this point. And the reason that you're letting me start on your team is because I've done this.
Yes.
Like, so I think that.
Well, to the other side of it too is, like, usually when season starts and the panic starts to set in, that's when we go. That's when we shift, and that to me is where continuing the development on our side is really valuable. Of like, it's common, it's natural. I'm going to panic. Oh crap! What do I do now? And then I just kind of freak out, and there's got to be a point in time to where it's like, hey, look, remember what you've done up until this point, like, and here's where we're going. Like, it's okay, like, and that happens to a lot of kids, for sure.
Well, and then to the flip side, just to kind of wrap up the podcast, but last season, the KPI crew, we had 7 MVPs, 2 pitchers of the year, and we had most all-league players of any facility in the country. And then, like Erik said prior, but all of those athletes maintained their training during the spring season and just prioritized their development to make sure that they were able to get the best training, which obviously, in the end, 7 MVPs and 2 pitchers of the year is insane. And it just gave them the best chance to succeed, like we talked about. And so if you guys have taken anything away from this podcast, please and make sure that you take away that this development in the spring during game times is very, very important. Anything else to add?
I mean, I'm going to throw out a cliche, right? Success is not an accident.
Yes.
Like, the guys that are competing at a high level, that are going to college, that are the MVPs, that are the pitchers of the years, that are the all leagues, like, they don't stop working. So, you need to copy those behaviors, like Jay said, like, do what got you there, do what got you prepared during the season. And it's what I say all the time when people say they don't have enough time to drive here, it's too far, this and that. Like, the good ones have figured this out, And so, my call to action would be, like, if you want to be good, these are the things you have to do to be good.
Yeah, I think the only thing I cap it off with is every athlete who trains with us in season, you have 6 other days of programming to do at home. So we literally are removing as many excuses as possible. Oh, I can't make it there. Well, Monday through Saturday we're open. Come in. Oh, I don't have my this and that. Okay, hey, we'll get you that stuff. Like, we're removing all of the excuses. Oh, I don't want to be sore. Okay, we'll adjust.
What do I do? It's on your phone.
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember how to do that thing. Well, we have a full video database. Yeah. Like, there are no excuses other than the fact of, like, I just want to take 4 months off and have my high school season.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for listening to Talking Points with KPI. This has been episode number 58, emphasizing spring development and in-season training. So make sure you please go follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and then go subscribe to our YouTube channel at Kinetic Performance Institute. Thank you guys very much for listening. Have a good day.